A small aluminum desktop arrives at a moment when most people expect incremental upgrades. Apple prepares the M5 Mac Mini for early 2026, and the decision facing buyers is simple but uncomfortable. Wait for what is coming, or buy something now that may feel outdated within months. For years, compact desktops have forced a compromise between power, size, and price. The Mac Mini has lived inside those limits, respected but rarely feared. The leaks surrounding the M5 generation suggest those limits are about to collapse. The current M4 already sets a high bar for everyday performance. The next step changes the balance entirely. Reports point to a noticeable CPU gain, but the real shift comes from graphics. A roughly 45% jump in GPU performance turns a machine from a casual desktop into a serious creative tool. In real use, this means smoother timelines, faster renders, and the ability to handle modern games and 3D workloads without external hardware. That change alters who the Mac Mini is for. It stops being a secondary computer for students or offices. It starts behaving like a compact workstation that fits anywhere and stays quiet while working hard. The story deepens with the M5 Pro. Most chips split work between performance and efficiency cores to control heat. The rumored M5 Pro configuration leans heavily toward raw power. A 16-core CPU with 12 performance cores pushes the limits of what a silent desktop can deliver. In practice, this means large code builds finish sooner, heavy exports stop bottlenecking, and multitasking no longer feels constrained. All of this power fits into a box barely larger than a streaming device. The result is workstation-level capability that does not demand space, noise, or complicated cooling. It sits on a desk and disappears while doing work usually reserved for much larger machines. Design does not change, and that decision matters. Apple keeps the compact chassis introduced in 2024 because it already works. The small fan and tight enclosure remain, yet performance climbs dramatically. That combination points to efficiency rather than brute force. Turn the system on once, and from that moment forward it simply keeps up. Storage has long been the weak point of the Mac Mini. Starting at 256 gigabytes limited who the machine made sense for. With local AI processing and heavier creative workflows becoming normal, the rumored move to a 512 gigabyte base changes the equation. It removes the immediate need for upgrades and makes the entry model viable for real work. Memory and storage options scale upward for those who need them. Expanded RAM configurations and faster unified memory bandwidth support heavier multitasking and local AI tasks. The machine stops being a compromise and becomes flexible enough to grow with its owner. Timing completes the picture. Multiple reports place the launch between March and June 2026, likely aligned with WWDC. Pricing is expected to remain familiar. An entry model near $600 and a higher-end Pro configuration around $1,400 keep the value argument intact. In real terms, that places performance normally found in far more expensive systems within reach of a much wider audience. This shift carries consequences. At this price, building a custom desktop becomes harder to justify. For everyday users, developers, and creators, the Mac Mini covers more ground with less effort. For professionals, it becomes a compact alternative to larger towers when space and noise matter. The choice now becomes clear. Anyone who needs a computer immediately and works within modest demands can buy confidently today. Those planning an upgrade for creative development or AI-heavy tasks gain by waiting. The M5 Mac Mini favors future-proofing over urgency. The theme running through every leak is value versus limits. Apple removes limits without raising the barrier to entry. The M5 Mac Mini does not redefine what a desktop looks like. It redefines how much it can do for the money, and that is what makes waiting the smarter move for many buyers. Time changes how that value is felt. At first, the performance headroom seems excessive for routine tasks. Over months and years, software grows heavier and expectations rise. The machine that once felt overpowered settles into feeling exactly right. Creative tools push further into real-time effects and local AI processing. Developers compile larger projects. Video workflows demand higher resolution previews and faster exports. Because of this, The extra GPU strength and memory bandwidth stop being luxuries and start becoming requirements. The Pro configuration draws a clearer line. It is not aimed at casual users. It exists for people who measure time in deadlines and renders. Faster turnaround means more work completed in a day. In that context, the higher price is justified by saved hours rather than benchmark numbers. Silence and efficiency remain part of the experience. Heavy loads do not introduce fan noise or heat spikes. The computer stays present but unnoticed, which changes how long sessions feel. Fatigue drops when noise and thermal limits disappear. Ownership costs stay predictable. Energy use remains low. Desk space stays minimal. The system avoids the hidden expenses that often follow high-performance desktops. No extra cooling, no oversized power supplies, no constant upgrades. The decision ultimately reflects how long the machine is expected to last. Buyers who replace hardware frequently may not need this much headroom. Those planning to keep a system for several years benefit most. The extra performance extends relevance instead of chasing peaks. By mid-2026, the Mac Mini shifts from a safe recommendation to a disruptive one. It does not force change through design or branding. It does it by quietly making alternatives feel inefficient. For many, waiting becomes less about curiosity and more about strategy. When a small desktop promises this much capability without changing price or footprint, patience turns into the smartest upgrade path. That patience reshapes expectations before the machine even arrives. Buyers start questioning upgrades they once considered reasonable. A mid-range desktop no longer feels like a long-term solution. A bulky tower starts to feel excessive for the work it actually delivers. Software trends reinforce this shift. More tools move toward local processing instead of cloud dependence. AI features run best when memory bandwidth and neural performance are available instantly. The M5 generation aligns with that direction, not as a future promise, but as a practical advantage from day one. For students and general users, the base configuration already exceeds typical needs. Everyday tasks remain effortless, while leaving space to grow into heavier workloads. That makes the entry price feel safer, not risky. The machine does not lock its owner into a narrow use case. For professionals, the Pro version becomes a compact anchor for serious work. It replaces larger systems without forcing compromises in speed or reliability. Workflows simplify when one small machine handles everything from planning to final output. This changes how upgrades are justified. Instead of chasing incremental gains every year, buyers can choose stability. A single purchase carries them through several software cycles without feeling pressure to replace hardware early. The broader market feels this pressure too. Competing systems must choose between raising prices, increasing size, or sacrificing efficiency. The balance Apple strikes leaves little room to respond without trade-offs. In that sense, the M5 Mac Mini is less about dominance and more about inevitability. It sets a baseline others must react to, not because it looks different, but because it quietly removes excuses. By the time it launches, the decision will already be made for many buyers. Waiting costs nothing. Buying too early risks regret. When a small desktop promises this level of performance, efficiency, and value, restraint becomes the smartest move.